military and protect our freedoms so that we may use your name without retribution. We ask this all in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
19th of May, 2016, OMU Commissioners Meeting.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. As is our normal first item, any changes to the agenda? First item is the fiscal year 2017 budget. And we have not prepared a presentation for this. You've obviously had a lot of reading material in front of you for the last week and a half or so, a couple of weeks. And I've asked Lynn to walk through the income statement and balance sheet. And if you have any questions, please ask.
For fiscal 17, the consolidated, which is the retail, electric, wholesale, power marketing, the Elmer Smith station costs, and telecommunications revenue. The operating revenue, we project $143,000, which is up 2.8% from how we expect fiscal 16 to end. The production expense is up 2.3% from fiscal 16 projection. The operating expense is up 2.5% budgeted in how we expect to end fiscal 16. Our net income, we expect to end at $13,204,000, and after that we will pay the city their transfer, which is the payment little tax and the city cash dividend amounts to $9.2 million. And our change in net position then for the year for 17 will be $4 million. On the water system, the operating revenue is $11.1 million, which is up 0.3% from fiscal 16 projection. The production expense is $3.2 million, up 22%. Majority of that is the increase in the ECA rate and the cost of the base rate going up 3.5% on the electric side. The total operating expense is up 15.6%, and the net income for transfers is a negative $259,000, and then we deduct the city transfer, which is only the payment of real tax for the water service, is $311,000. So the actual change in net position is $570,000. So you take the net income before transfers, before the city transfer, add back depreciation and interest expense, you come down to the net revenue before depreciation, which is where we start on the next page, which shows the cash position. So in the consolidated electric system, you start with $40.9 million, and you deduct the city transfers, capital funding for routine capital, the debt service expenses for the year, the ECA balance through change in cash, interfund transfers between departments, and then the interest income, you add that back. So our net cash consolidated is a negative $519,000 in changing cash for next year on the electric side. We expect to end the general fund balance with $23.1 million, which will cover our 2 months operating expenses. On the water side, we start with the net revenue of $33.4 million. After the city files, transfer $311,000, and the capital funding, which is the routine funding, and the debt service payments. We expect a positive change in cash flow of $291,000. And we'll have a general fund balance at the end of 17 of approximately $3.9 million. So we're covered on our day station based on this budget. The preliminary presentation we showed you in the end of April, we're cutting $5.3 million in costs, all of that was taken out, and then only the step that is everything is June 1st, which is $180,000.
180,000. So, I guess the most important thing to understand about the budget this year is that it's very tight, and we have included in our projections the estimate of a 1 cent ECA increase sometime next year, beginning January 1st of 2017. That ECA increase, as we mentioned the last time we met the work session, is not a certainty. It was necessary to put that in there in order to make the budget balance. And to the extent that wholesale markets improve, our intent would be to not have that increase. You will be, we cannot make an increase in the ECA without your approval. So that would come back before this body for approval before we would make any increase in the ECA rate. So with that,
Would that require a public hearing?
no, it will not. The ECA does not require a public hearing. Base rates do, but the ECA is remember, is just a pass-through of charges related to fuel, maintenance, and then the market purchase power. So, we have put together a motion that includes a number of items. You are required under statute to approve the pay increases, and A of the recommended motion would be a contingent cost of living increase of 1.7% effective January 1st of 2017, conditioned upon the electric system net income exceeding the budget by at least $131,000. We will make that determination in November, close of November's books, and a projection for the rest of the year that allows us to get through the summer, see what the summer revenues and expenses materialize as. The second part of the pay increase is the incentive pool, and again, we're requesting that be a contingent funding, again, to the extent that our net income will allow us to pay up to 1.3% of total payroll. It's $236,000. We'd ask you to approve that increase contingent upon net income.
Could those percentages change depending upon the income? If the income's a whole lot more, does that number change?
You can always change it. We're asking you to authorize this level today.
Yeah. Okay, but that could be different if it,
Sure.
depending upon.
And then the final aspect of this is that because the ECA balance is projected to rise above $10 million in the fiscal year, I'm asking you to allow us to use up to $4 million of unrestricted reserves to excuse a portion of the ECA balance that customers would owe to OMU in order to keep that within the $10 million confines of the ECA policy. That would be money that would be effectively used to reduce rate increase that would otherwise be necessary in order to adjust that balance down.
Does that ever show up in the fund balance program, or is that just, it's going to be used to get the?
It is in our reserve fund balances today.
Yeah, it's still in there?
Yes.
You have budgeted it out?
We didn't model it. We didn't model it out. But we do have sufficient revenues, or sufficient unrestricted reserve funds that we could pay that $4 million without impacting our debt coverage ratio. That's the key thing.
If they, wonder if like if in November, close from November's an actual business this year, that we don't quite make it. And then it turned out to be really cold in December again. We revisited it.
Oh, you can do whatever you would like to do, yeah.
But we don't need to really say that now.
No, we don't. You can take that action at any time.
So if later we realized we were being regular in the winter.
Yes.
And we hadn't done so well in the summer, we could
Yeah.
not a hard deadline.
No, I mean, you have, by statute, you have the ability to change the budget and the compensation at any point in time.
So at this point, in one motion to approve all of this?
That's usually the easiest way we can do it, so that's what I'm asking for. It's kind of a package deal as part of the budget approval process. That the compensation issue must be dealt with as a component of the motion. The use of reserves also needs to be done as a component of the motion.
If you want to make an
Should we get a motion out
Let's
there?
get a motion and go to discussion.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'd like to weigh in on the discussion with the first thing, keeping in mind that we've frozen wages. We're going into our fund to keep from having to cause an increase in ECA. I think it's a time to really look at our donation budget. In the budget right now is $178,500 in donations. I think under this circumstance, that the fact that we can't give our employees a raise, we're going to turn around and do this donation. This set of donations, that we really need to look at that in a little bit different way in the next 6 months. Now, a lot of the donations, the two biggest items, of course, are United Way and the Salvation Army. United Way is a matching program when an employee put in $1 and OMU puts in $1. Well, I think, that gives, we're taking money out of their pocket to match their money. So, I think that one should be eliminated and addressed again in 6 months, depending on whether they get their raise. The second thing, the Salvation Army program, which is $52,500, which is to help people during the winter months, whether they pay their power bill or not. I think that program kind of needs to be audited, and we don't know how they're doing that, and what they're actually putting out, and who's administering that. So I think that's a great program, and it's necessary for the community. But I think we probably need to take a little bit more active role. They need to give us a presentation so we'll understand how that's administered and how that's done. Those are the two big ones. That's 100,000 of the 178,000. The EDC, the Economic Development Commission, gets $20,000. If they're going to get $20,000 from OMU, I think they need to make a presentation to OMU, say what the benefits to OMU is for the $20,000, not $20,000 so you can go do your thing. That's a big number in my opinion. And how many employees we got? We got 200 employees. That's $100 a piece. It's actually coming out of their pocket to send the EDC. It could have been for wages. And miscellaneous sponsorships, $32,000. Again, I know that Sonia takes care of that. She administers that. And I'm sure she does a great job. I just think this whole deal with sponsorships and donations needs to be addressed. How to do that in reality is that I'd like to amend our budget, item number D. Haven't really written this up. To suspend the United Way donation. If employees want to double their donation to United Way, that's great, of course. Now, this number is going to help that $131,000 number.
Why don't we have discussion, then you can finalize your
Okay.
afterwards, after everybody says you might want to change a couple times.
All right, that's true. But that's my position on it right now. Is that I think that the fact that we're having to dip into our reserves to keep from having a rating increase the ECA. And if the employees aren't getting their raises until things get better, and we're slinging money around like we got tons of it, that's my position.
My position a long time is philosophically, I just believe that giving away other people's money should be limited to people who have direct accountability to voters, which is not us. I would be, the EDC I see is a little different. I think that is an investment in looking to secure future revenues. I have no objection to them doing a presentation, telling us what they're going to use that money for. The Salvation Army, actually, that's not really a cash outlay. We're really just paying ourselves for power we can't sell anyway. But I would be interested in proposing that the Salvation Army be concluded as part of the cities in lieu of. They can just take that portion of power and they can still run the Salvation Army, and then they do that. Other than that, I'm fine with suspending the rest of it.
Let me ask you a question, Commissioner, on that issue. When you say included in lieu of,
But the city handle that donation counts against their in lieu of.
but our in lieu of is a non-cash contribution.
But you haven't, you're giving away power. This is basically what you're doing here.
No, this is cash that we provide to the Salvation Army that
That
can be
gives them
used for
return.
heating assistance.
No, I didn't realize.
So it's cash. It's a cash outlay. So, unless the city were willing to divert part of its dividend, cash dividend payment, then it can't be, there's no other way for the city to fund that.
Or that would cause the whole issue would be having to be renegotiated and rediscussed.
By doing Salvation Army, I have no way what kind of metrics they use to judge who gets what. And that just,
Well, there are criteria. I keep
No, I'm
quoting
sure
to you, I'm sure Sonia knows what they are,
Well,
but,
can't they just tell you who qualifies and you just forgive that debt?
well, the reason the Salvation does it is, Salvation Army does it, is they coordinate amongst all the agencies, all the charitable organizations. And they keep track of who gets what, so that people aren't going to the health office and getting a relief from their heating bill, and then going to Salvation Army and getting relief, and then going to somewhere else and
No,
getting
I understand,
relief.
I like the benefit of that. I'm saying that couldn't they just identify what customers qualify instead of giving cash to them, you just forgive that portion of that
It has the same net effect to OMU. So, obviously, we could do that. I think administratively, it would be difficult for us to manage. Their systems are set up to manage that, and I think administratively, it would be a
Either
cost.
way, you're
to
paying
us.
yourself.
It certainly is using ratepayer money to help those that are less fortunate and that need the help.
If you don't mind, I would like to add that this is a program that both Atmos and Kenergy use, so that funds are distributed.
It's nice that you got that,
As
though,
far as the
with your
details, that sort
customers.
of thing is far more familiar with that than I am. But we do receive regular updates on how those funds are distributed, and certainly could share that information. But they do handle all of the vetting of that sort of information for us, which is an amazing tool. Just the same reason that Atmos and Kenergy are using it.
And we're not staffed downstairs for that.
that's your comment? Well, there was an EDC discussion.
Yeah, let me address that.
And you can, I ask you to address that since
Yeah.
you deal with that.
And the Economic Development Commission, or corporation, is really the only means that OMU uses to attract new businesses and new electric and water demand on our system. We work very closely with the EDC and help them attract and retain businesses. And while we call it a donation, it's really an investment in business development for OMU. And I believe it's a prudent expenditure. Let's put it this way, if it wasn't for the EDC and we were going out there with that same amount of money to try to retain and attract businesses, our reach would be far less than what we get from the value that EDC brings to the table because of their scope that they have and the reach that they have in the marketplace. So, it is a donation under our accounting system, but it's really a marketing expense.
Terry, to kind of support that, we keep talking about, the challenges of wholesale market, which is a big challenge. But if you look at our budget, the actual retail megawatt hours were actually 50,000 less than we were 40 years ago. So you're talking about challenges. 50,000 megawatts less, and expenses are going up. So we need more retail in there to maintain the lights. We really need to push that.
who all contributes to the EDC?
The EDC, the city of Owensboro and the county are the two largest contributors to the EDC. There's a group of, I believe it's 20 or so private industries, including OMU, that contribute to the EDC.
How does that contribution?
We're the largest company donation. Most of the others are in the $6,000 to $10,000 range. Most are around $10,000. But we've traditionally done $25,000 to the EDC.
The city of Owensboro?
It's over $100,000.
But I do think Ted's got a point for a $20,000 donation. Perhaps Madison should come down and explain to the board their intentions of how that money is utilized.
I'm sure he'd be glad to do that.
Yes.
I mean, it's on part of it.
I'm not sure you guys want to sit through that, but I'm sure he would be glad to do it.
He's got 5 minutes.
He does do that quarterly donation to the city.
Yeah, he does. He just recently, a couple weeks ago, gave an update on the EDC's efforts to the city commission.
$100,000 worth, she'll take 150 of that.
I think the city's actually, and don't quote me on the number, I believe they're like 140, 150,000. You probably know that number. And the county's about the same amount.
I hate to throw money out there and know where it's going and what the results are.
Trust me, I'm on the board of the EDC, and I'll be taking over as chairman actually next year of the EDC board. And I have instituted a level of accountability that the board has, that the EDC staff has not seen before. We just recently put metrics in place for the EDC to track its performance and to compare its performance. And again, if we're investing money into the EDC, we want to make sure our money's being spent well. And I can guarantee you that as their chair next year, I will make sure that it's spent very cost effectively.
So we want to keep the EDC and the Salvation Army program, and if anybody else wants to make even though it won't be in the budget, if anybody else wants to make a donation, they don't have to make a presentation. I don't see the other way to do that at this point.
So that would be your motion?
I would like to maintain in the budget, FY17, EDC contribution of $20,000, knowing that the EDC, you don't have to put that up, I'll do that right now. The Salvation Army contribution of $52,500. And eliminate all other sponsorship contributions at this time.
There is a contribution or a donation to the Chamber of Commerce.
And
So I'm just asking you not want us to be a member of the...
I didn't include that.
Okay. And then the other one on United Way, just to make sure I understand, not the match, but you still want us to run a campaign?
My campaign will not do that.
Okay, because I'm just the campaign does have some dollars associated with labor and projects that we do for different agencies.
That's not a problem.
It's just the match, okay.
And I've told him again, spoken about, I guess I would like to speak in favor of keeping those items. I understand the philosophical argument on both sides, I really do, but I just feel like for a relatively small amount of money, we're accruing some civic and employee prime benefits that maybe we wouldn't get otherwise. I understand this is real money, but it just seems like kind of a community investment for a relatively small price.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So you want to try to forward a motion then?
That was my motion.
You have it? What did you put up? Okay.
So I guess that's an amended motion.
Amended motion.
Just a motion to amend?
To amend the budget.
So
Only include those two items.
Okay, so where we're at, I think, Robert's Rules of Order, you would, you need to take a vote on, you need to make the motion to amend the original motion and then get a second on the amendment to the motion.
just made the amendment to the motion, which is to maintain the Economic Development Commission, Salvation Army, and eliminate all other donations unless presented individually before the commission to vote on.
That's a second.
Second.
Got any further discussion on this is just a vote on this amendment to the original. All those in favor, say aye.
Just a motion discussion. I'm not going to be in favor of amending it simply because I think our glass is half full, and I really believe that we're going to come up with the funds. I think it's such a small amount compared to the whole budget. We're going to be able to find the funds to do some cutting of expenses or somewhere. I believe that our employees are that good at what they do, that they'll find that this time in this year we'll have the funds.
I think we could address it when we know that's back, rather than try and put it on the if come right now. So
What if you tied those funding to the same provisions as the employee raise? Net income goes rather
And we're
than.
back to funding all these donations, whether they need to be funded or not. I think we need to, that's why I say we need to address these as it comes up. So we do have a very good performance during the winter, and we've got this money. And we don't have to dip in our reserve fund for $4 million, and it gets their raise. Then we may be in a different position, still not necessarily needing it. I'm in favor of matching with 64,000. We talk about employees first and OMU, and the next group we're talking about is ratepayers. So, that's what we're here for. We're to take care of OMU, ratepayers, and employees of OMU. And they are primary over anybody else on this list. So that's my feeling.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those against the motion, say no.
No.
Motion does not carry.
We already have a motion and a second on the floor for the budget. Are there further discussion on the rest of the budget?
Just that, I think we need to commend staff. They really did a good job with a very challenging budget.
Very noticeable what all the
Thank you, sir.
Such a good job, it was a challenge to get through it. It's still downloading from when we started the meeting.
And by the way, if anybody would like a hard copy of this, I'll let you know.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I do appreciate, I think Lynn and her staff worked exceptionally hard this year on the budget. It was a challenging year. And we also put in a new piece of software to manage our budget process. And this team did a great job. We're also transitioning from Kathy to Jason Cox in his new role and Kathy's new role. So it was a challenging year, and they really stepped it up. Not to mention that each of the department heads had to dig deep to find kind of questions.
I also appreciate the fact I missed the work session with Jason Lamar and Lynn went through the budget with me. I appreciate that time to do that.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving on.
There's no motion.
It's discussion. I think Dan made the motion, the original motion. It was seconded by Tom.
All right, the next item on the agenda. As soon as it gets on downloading. We've been having a little bit of an internet issue today. The next item is a subset of the fiscal year budget, which is this general manager performance expectations. I provided a copy of my proposed performance expectations to you. We are required under our governance policies to approve that. We've traditionally not done it as part of the budget. We've done it separately, but I think it's more appropriate to put it in place. So I would ask you to entertain a motion to approve those.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
How did you come up with these? Did you and your staff get together and they said, this is what I'll do? Or did any of the commissioners have input, or just think of it on your own?
Those are what I'm expecting to accomplish this year. And I think it's what you guys have, through our interaction, this is what I believe your expectation is. Our performance management agreements between myself and my direct reports and their direct reports all roll up to support these expectations.
Did your directors have any input into this?
Oh, we've discussed them, yes. Yes.
I thought it was well done. Yeah, I did too. Pretty challenging.
I like the challenge.
It's an aggressive set.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Next item is the Henderson Interest Group Agreement, which is a presentation to walk through this. You have before you today a request to authorize me to enter into an agreement for this Henderson Interest Group, and I think it's this is a important step in the direction in our power supply, long-term power supply evaluation. And I want to talk a little bit about the Henderson Interest Group and what its objectives are. To start off with, I want to make it clear that this agreement in no way commits OMU to any long-term purchase of energy or capacity from this facility. What it does commit us to do is to participate with other municipals and co-ops in developing the terms and conditions under which OMU and these other public power entities would purchase power from this proposed facility. Let's go on. So, the purpose of the agreement is to develop a power purchase agreement. It's a 10-year agreement initially between interested parties and developer of what's called a merchant combined cycle facility in Henderson County, Kentucky. The agreement sets forth the way that we'll allocate costs between the parties, and its purpose of the power purchase agreement is to establish all the terms and conditions associated with our participation as well as others' participation in a prospective agreement with the developers. Until we understand all four corners of the deal, I'm not bringing it to you for approval or disapproval. We have to understand all aspects of the deal, all the risks. And that's what the intent of this group is to get all four corners of the deal put in place so that we can make an intelligent decision. Let's go on to the next page. Why the group? Well, obviously, we can spread our risk. With 6 other participants, we only are paying a proportionate share of the costs of this effort. OMU on its own is not sufficient to, doesn't have a sufficient level of interest in the project to enable it to move forward with commercial financing. And I'll get into that in a little bit. The developer needs more than OMU. He needs enough of a 10-year commitment for him to be able to obtain commercial financing. And the banks and hedge funds that finance in this space aren't willing to take too much merchant risk. We've been talking about merchant risk. When we talk about merchant risk, it's our wholesale risk that we're talking about. Well, the development of this project, to the extent that the output is not under contract, under a long term, they have that same risk that we have with ownership. And the banks are not willing to have unbounded level of merchant risk. A single agreement will be an equitable allocation of the development and construction risk to all the parties and the operating party. So every party will be treated the same way. One party's not taking on more risks than the other. Next page. As I mentioned, all the other participants are public power entities, either co-ops or OMUs. That's important because none of us are in the speculation game of trying to take a position in the merchant market and trying to make a profit. We're all not-for-profit entities, and our objectives are the same, to get the most dependable source of low-cost power possible.
But Terry, if KYMEA is a participant, and we're part of KYMEA, why are we not just funding through that? Why are you going a separate participant?
The reason is because at this point with KYMEA, we do not have adequate information to know what their cost structure is going to be for power supply.
Okay, that's what I was doing. So we don't have a power purchase agreement either one.
Right.
So we can play this out and see what's the best deal.
And what I intend to do is if this thing goes and it looks like a good deal, we would likely take our interest and move it over to KYMEA and have KYMEA prosecute our interest through the agency. That way, to the extent OMU decided it wanted to take an equity position long-term in this asset, it would be through the agency. And we would not have debt on OMU's balance sheet, it would be debt at the agency.
So there would have to be adjustments in the power purchase agreement with K.
I expect that by the time we are ready to sign an agreement, if this effort here, the interest group agreement moves forward, like I suspect, we'll know the answer to that question prior to signing the power purchase agreement. If not, we'll make provisions in the agreement to allow an assignment.
So wasn't KEMA already trying to evaluate their purchases? Now they're going to delay decide
No,
this is part of it?
no. Their plans right now, they are pursuing certain base load supplies to serve the other 10 cities.
Not included, because
Not
we're
including
going
OMU.
into this agreement as OMU, right?
Correct. So KYMEA putting in their supply agreements for the other 10 cities right now. Okay? When OMU retires the second unit in Elmer Smith, we'll no longer have sufficient generation to meet our city load. It's at that point where we would be looking to the agency to provide us with energy. Or we could alternatively get it directly from a facility like Henderson. Between now and the end of this year, 2016, KYMEA will have its initial supply agreements in place. They will be participating with this, and we will have certainty about the long-term fate of Unit 2. And it's at that point where we'll have to come to you and ask you to either move forward in the agreement with the developer of Henderson, independent of KYMEA, or through KYMEA.
Are any of these other 6 public utilities part of KY?
No.
No.
No, they represent mostly co-ops in 5 different states.
When you say KYMEA, was approved participation in the This agreement that I'm asking you to give me authority to enter into, they've already approved it.
So we're going to be buying Henderson.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a little confusing. So even without OMU's load, they need some of this in order to meet their obligations to the other 10 cities.
At this point, to move forward with this agreement, is there a cost to OMU? What is the cost to OMU?
We'll go into that there. And the 6 companies have about 500 megawatts of interest out of a facility that's about 780 megawatts. So that's sufficient to obtain financing. And I am the current chair of the group. Come on to the next page.
I tell you what's confusing, and I'd love for Raymond to come and excellent staff, just when we look into to show how we're going to have an equity position in the some of those.
We won't.
We're not.
No, because the equity, if KYMEA took an equity position. and by the
Oh,
way,
they took an equity, not us.
we would not take an equity position, no. But we do anticipate that if we were to participate as OMU in this project, at some point down the road, maybe 1 or 2 years after the facility is commercially operational, it would be more cost effective for us to take an equity get a lower cost of capital than the developer does. So that's when I talk about equity, we intend to build that option into the power purchase, whether it's for KYMEA or for OMU. So here's the cost. Our estimates today for OMU, it's $18,000 to $27,000. Each of the participants, the other 6, have a similar range.
Let me ask you, when you said you're appointed chair, when I read that agreement, there's a pretty good list of responsibilities associated with being chair. Are we being compensated for your time on those responsibilities?
No, but I think it's something I need to do. It's absolutely necessary. I mean, the level of effort that's going to be required between now and the 4th quarter of this year is not that much. I mean, the attorneys that we intend to use are very knowledgeable and very experienced in this type of agreements. So I don't expect there to be, my role is simply coordination amongst the 6 participants. Again, no commitment on the party and part of any of the participants to participate in the power purchase agreement. And our participation is based upon a retirement date of Unit 2 and our relationship with KYM. So we touched on that issue. Let's go on to the next page. Talk a little about the facility. I think people are interested in this. The developer is Henderson LLC. It's a group of developers in Florida. The unit is a 788 megawatt state-of-the-art natural gas facility. It's 2 what we call one-on-ones. It's a gas turbine with a heat recovery steam generator. So the gas turbine spins on a shaft. It turns a generator. The steam that's recovered from the heat recovery generator goes to a steam turbine that turns another shaft that produces electric through a turbine, through a generator. It also has what's called duct firing. Duct firing is the ability to fire natural gas into the steam generator in order to produce more steam and to boost the electrical output on that aspect of the generator. The heat rates are important to understand. 6,700 heat rate is a very good heat rate. Our current heat rates at Elmer Smith are about 11,000. So this is a significantly more efficient machine than Elmer Smith. And the emissions are significantly less at 884 pounds of carbon dioxide per million BTU. Currently we're about 2,200 pounds per million BTU. The site is a 2,000 acre abandoned strip mine site in Henderson County along the Green River. It's a zoned industrial, so all the zoning's been accomplished. Let's go on to the next page. Here's the location. As you can see, that's the Audubon running over to Henderson. And so it's just down from the Audubon on the Green River. Let's go on to the next page. The layout, the facility uses cooling towers. It doesn't have one-stone cooling like we do, so there's a series of cooling towers that's closest to the river on the right. And then you can see the 2 turbines and steam generators there, and then a switch yard. So not a real complicated facility, but it's a good size. Going to the next page. And this is the important part, which is that all the permits have been obtained for this facility. And that is extremely important. We wouldn't be interested in a project like this without the certainty that the permits could be achieved.
How long did it take to get that, Mr. Permit?
This project is in its 2nd or 3rd life. It was originally called the Cache Creek Project. It was the Cache Creek. It was a coal gasification project. It's been under development for over 10 years. So I can't tell you exactly. I think these permits were iterations of previous permits that were issued. Let's go on to the next page. This is the timeline. We believe we'll have all the participants that are going through the same process here getting authorization to sign the participation agreement by the end of June. We'll begin our discussions with the developer through the attorney on the power purchase agreement in July, finish those up in September, and we'll be back sometime in the fourth quarter of this year seeking authority to participate. That means by the fourth quarter of this year, we also be in front of you with discussions about the long-term outcome of Unit 2 with respect to gas repower and the other options.
So when will we know our options with KYMEA?
Prior to us bringing this back to you. KYMEA is anticipating approving, the board of KYMEA will be approving what's called the All Requirements Contract, which is the contract between the agency and each of the members in June. And they'll be approving the initial supply contracts with power companies also at the same time. So in another month, they'll be approving those. At the end of next month, just after our regular June meeting, they'll be approving those approvals.
And how long-term are those commitments for power?
They're 10 years.
Or 10 years?
They have to be back to back. You can't, because of the financing arrangements on the power supply side, the offtake back to the utilities participating in KYMEA have to be coincident. Otherwise, there's a risk to the power supplier that there wouldn't be adequate revenues to support the 10-year commitment. So they have to be back to back.
Kennedy or Big River's involved in this?
I can't speak to that issue because it's subject to confidentiality agreements.
We kind of like to know you get in the bed, I guess.
You'll know in June.
Relationship and all that is.
Yeah, well, you will know in June. And by the way, for us, OMU, we are not a party to the all requirements contract because we're self-supplying and will continue to self-supply our energy until we retire Unit 2. Because by law, we can't, we have to use our own generation. We can't sell our generation to a third party. We can only sell surplus to a third party. So we have to use our own generation for our own.
I guess one thing on that is that it's obvious that gas-powered rather than coal-powered is going to be the future.
I think the economics are telling us that that's the answer, at least on an interim basis, until we can.
Well, the repeat mandates and all
Yeah,
that.
until we can
Save
get
so much money on that end.
Well, until we can get to a state in this industry where renewable energy has a way to be stored
Yeah.
at night when the sun isn't shining and when the wind isn't blowing, then yes, gas is going to be the primary driver.
And we better get in a group, go into something like this or do it with
Yes,
somebody, we can't do it on our own.
that's the reason, Dr. Maddox, why we are participating in KYMEA and why we're participating with 6 other companies in trying to get this transaction.
In your opinion, this is the best way to go rather than try.
We have looked at I can't tell you how many options we've been looking at. And this is by far the lowest cost option we've been
But
looking
you're still evaluating gas at.
We are. We are. That analysis is not complete. We do have engineering estimates in place now on what the hardware and modification costs at the plant would be. Rob is now working on the gas supply piece, how much the pipeline and how much the pipeline transportation costs are going to be in that time. Once we have that, we'll stack it up against this and some other options, and we'll come back to you and recommend an option.
Proving this does not lock us.
There's a lot of pieces because there are ones.
Yeah, we're only talking about 2 or 3. Trust me, for the last several years, we've been looking at 6, 8 options.
And I think it's prudent to pursue these kind of things, but I would appreciate if we were updated on terms and conditions at PPA and not see it was finalized.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be.
I feel like we got behind on the KYMEA.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a done deal before we could have
But we will make sure that you're up to speed on it.
How did this evolve where our general manager wound up in the middle of this thing? How did it all come together? Because basically, we're quasi-appointing you as our representative.
Yeah, I think
Anybody else from the commission looking to see what's going on? And that line is.
Well, the other participants in the project, none of them are Kentucky-based with the exception of KYMEA. And KYMEA, OMU is the largest member of KYMEA. We have the most expertise on power supply of anyone in KYMEA by far. That's the name. The other participants in this project that are in these 5 other states asked me if I would be willing to do this, to help pull together this group for them. And because I'm involved with KYMEA and with OMU, and between the 2 of us, we're by far the largest potential off-taker, it makes sense for us to take the lead on this project. Does that answer your question?
Still, as far as the, putting all of it in your lap. You get hit by a truck. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, obviously,
That's, I mean, you can say what you
valid
want to,
concern.
I can say that's a concern if we don't have somebody else from the commission involved in it that just in case. What's your feeling on that?
we can involve whoever you want. You guys run this utility, and it's up to you. I can tell you that I don't do anything by myself.
Oh, I understand.
I have several people on staff. Rob is very involved in all aspects of this, and if I were to be hit by a truck tomorrow, I'm confident that we'd be able to step up and prosecute the rest of this transaction and all the other things we're working on.
But if we're being briefed in detail every month, then would that not picture some of that concern?
Good. I mean, I just wanted to voice it that it was a concern, that it's not something else. But I have it in the back of my mind.
And also, like at some point, you may reevaluate your perception how much time. If your time starts to get more than you think, then I think we need to consider being compensated for some of that time through the rest of the agreement.
Yeah, I understand your concern. I will tell you that my concern is that if I let someone else do it, then I'm probably going to spend as much time as I would otherwise, just making sure that I understand all the moving pieces. That's just the way I am.
That's why we're concerned about all the moving pieces also.
Yeah. So unless there's any other questions, I would ask Mr. Chairman if you would entertain a motion on this.
Motion approved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then I've got a communication that I'll give to each of you that provides a little more information about this project that we'll be distributing to all of our employees today. Because as you can imagine, our production employees are very interested in the long-term impacts. Okay, next item is our revised energy risk management policy. We went over this with you at the work session. There were minor changes to the risk policies to incorporate some changes we made to our hedging plan. And unless there are any questions, I'd ask you to entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
On to the general manager report. One thing that's not on the report that I'd like to let you know is we did close the financing yesterday of our bonds, the water bonds, and Lynn and her team done another great job. We've probably obtained the lowest financing rate in OMU's history. What was our total?
2.8.
That's a really low rate. For
Is it
the-
rated what?
Rated A1.
A1?
Yep. So, pretty good turn of events there.
We saved $771,000.
Our bond rating hasn't changed.
Yes. Okay, obviously you've seen the fiscal year 17. That's really been the predominant use of our time over the last 4 weeks is our budget. Yesterday, we had our annual health fair, and we had 44% of our employees participating in the preventative care that we provide, which is a blood test for basic health metrics. That's a free option that we provide to employees and their spouses, and had a good turnout on that yesterday. And then we are actually seeing benefits already in our health costs associated with our wellness programs. This is one of them. Michael, you want to?
It's facilitated by our HR department, but we have a committee of employees from all departments that participate in it, getting the vendors together, setting it up, and then Owensboro Health, I think, is using help this year, this year, which is a bit of but it was a very successful health fair. Spouses were involved in the screening too, and that's just 44% of our employees, but the spouses were also involved, and it went really well.
I want to skip over number 3. We just talked about that number 4. April weather was normal. May, yesterday it was 55 degrees and raining. So on top of adding insult to injury, our weather woes continue. And we hope for a very, very hot summer. So we are running with extra cool doesn't help. No. If it's like 20, it helps. Oh, good. Kind of 50. City load about 3% below normal last month in April. We continue to operate with a single unit at Owensboro with 1 unit in reserve shutdown. We've debated even taking off the second unit because prices have been that low. But it seems to make sense for us to continue. Economics are just right on the edge, so we continue to operate the unit for system reliability purposes. Natural gas and power prices have moved up since we set the budget in February. Our forecast is based on a day in February, and just because markets move around, just like the stock market does, we're already projecting $1.7 million above budget in wholesale revenues going into as of last week. You know, this contingent provision of our budget, our hope is that we will continue to see this trajectory to the upside rather than to the downside. We did have an injury at Elmer Smith plant last week. We had a gentleman, an electrician, who was injured working on a breaker. Seems that the breaker malfunctioned. Still trying to do an investigation on it, but that employee did sustain some burns to his hands and face and was hospitalized. So I wanted to let you know that yeah, I believe it was arc flash, but it appears that the breaker malfunctioned.
You got that in a box, right?
Yeah. But I hate it when employees get, as you know, I'm such a proponent of employee safety. Second degree burns, pretty serious. But the good thing is employees home and convalescing now from the injury. With that, I'll turn it over to Lynn.
Okay. Financial update for April 2016. The consolidated net income was up 9% above budget fiscal year to date. The retail system, the megawatt sales hours for the month of April were 5.2% below budget. Fiscal year to date, actual retail performance without the ECA adjustment, net income is down 0.3% below budget. On the wholesale system, for the month of April, the megawatt hour sales were 41.3% below budget. Fiscal year to date, net income is down 130.8% below budget. On the hedge gains, we were up 945,000 for the month of April, and for the year, we're up 4.2 million on our hedge gains that we recorded in the books. Telecommunications, the fiscal year to date, we're 130,000 better than budget. On the water system, we're 481,000 better than budget. At the bottom box down there, and we've got 11 months of actuals and 1 month of budget left. So at the end of next month, we project to be on the consolidated electric system 0.8% better than budget for our net income. On the retail without the ECA adjustment, we expect it to be around 0.3% negative below budget. On the wholesale system, 101.3% below budget. And then the telecommunications system, 131,000 better than budget. So we expect the net income to turn around. And then on the water system, should be up about 477,000 below budget. So one more month and we'll have it projected.
What do you estimate the higher consumption?
It's something around megawatt.
And what was the total for Waste Commons that gets built out?
Excuse me.
If Waste Commons
About
built.
2.5 to 3.
Are there any questions?
Any other questions? All right. Compliance, I didn't have any other items presented for action in the future meeting. Governance items, I've reviewed the 5 that are listed, or 4 that are listed here, and I found that we were in compliance with all 4 of these items. With that, unless anyone has any further items they'd like to put on the agenda, I'd ask for a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion on closed session.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.